we might start with jobs that are what we call survival jobs. We have a different culture at work. Understand networking. When I speak with someone who is probably from my family members are in Mexico, and I'm trying to explain what networking is, they don't totally understand that. So networking is kind of like, how do you mean? Like I go and talk to people like that? Like that's kind of like make you feel anxious, right? In the beginning, like how do you mean? Um, certifications. Like in my case, I'm a registered psychotherapist. I had to go through different stages until I finally able to practice as a mental health professional. And that's a whole different story. Anxiety, stress, worries about finances, like, oh, do I have to pay all these different things? Lack of confidence, emotion, acceptance, the weather. It's February and we probably are having a snowstorm, and my family back home are having barbecue at the same time. And sometimes I miss them so much. Leaving family behind, probably. And sometimes you might wake up and say, oh, like I miss my family members. The loss of identity. Because let me tell you something. We might never, uh, I mean, probably no, we might never. We change, and change is part of us. And that creates anxiety because not knowing who we are, it's difficult to know where we're heading to. And immigrating is facing yourself again. In my case, my bachelor is in communications back home in Mexico. So when I came to Canada, when I arrived in Canada, the first 2 years, they were, I would say, the most challenging for me, to the point that I was depressed. And I was diagnosed by my family doctor. And it's funny because I remember being on the subway and reading an ad that had like a checklist. And the checklist said, do you have any of the following symptoms? And it says lack of energy, challenging like sleeping, feeling sadness, loss of interest. And I was like, check, 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 check. And I was like, oh, wait a second. Am I depressed? But in my case, I mean, I was like, no, I cannot be depressed. I mean, I'm coming from a country where everyone is happy. This is not depression. But I thought my iron was low. I thought it was the weather. And I mean, it was part of it. But also I was depressed. And I had to go through all my whole experience, my own experience, to realize that, okay, emotions are also involved here. And then thanks to that experience, I decided to go back to school and complete my master's degree in psychotherapy. And that's what I do now. And I love it. So I had to get depressed in order to, to find purpose. But what I'm saying here is just seeing that experience and knowing, being aware of what is happening. Then on the top of that, I don't know for how long you've been here. If you could add that in a chat so I can see probably for how long you've been here, that would be great, guys. But I mean, most in like newcomers that probably arrived last year, they do not only have to face kind of the most common challenges. On the top of that, we have to navigate with the COVID-19 that make things completely different. And if things are already challenging, this is kind of like the icing of the cake, even more. Important to notice that. Now, important, be aware that your life change at a different levels. To start probably with, maybe your job is different now, maybe your social life is different now, probably just because because of COVID. Your physical exercise, the environment, we have a different weather now. I mean, try to see how different areas in your life have been impacted by these ways of being a new country. And it's important because when I'm working with someone in a session and they tell me, Lucia, I don't understand what I feel in this way. And we go and check, okay, let's see how different your life is now. And why is that so challenging for the brain? And let me tell you one thing. The brain likes to make things easier for us. Brain is like, I want to know that you're going to survive. The brain itself. Mind is another thing, brain is another thing. Let's focus now on the brain. So for the brain, adapting, that means eating something new, taking a new route on your way to work, or moving to a new country, that's a lot of effort. And the brain wants to kind of use energy wisely. So whenever there is an adjustment, the brain is like, oh, wait a second, what's going on here? And it's gonna probably understand that and perceive that as a threat. And when the brain perceives that as a threat, then there's chemistry in the brain. And that could be anxiety, that could be depression, that could be stress. Not to worry, we're humans, this is expected. That's what the brain does. But it's important to understand why it's so challenging. It's just for the brain, the idea of adjusting to something new is already consuming energy, just the thought of it, right? So the question here is, do you pay attention to your emotions? If I ask you, like, at this moment, how do you feel? What emotion you feel? How do you think that would be? How do you define or make the difference between feeling frustrated and feeling angry? Feel sad or depressed are different. They're different. So do you really pay attention to your emotions? Or we kind of try to just put it inside a locker room, like, oh, we're gonna deal with that later. But then we fill up this pretty fast, and it's gonna be open once. So like in this drawing, how do I explain this feeling? It's challenging just to sometimes name what we feel. And that's the first step. And then here's where I will ask you if you could tell me, what are you experiencing the most now?
I would say anxiety.
Anxiety, okay. What do you feel in your body?
I don't know, it's like, I don't know how to say this word in English, like vacío in my stomach.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
how do you say that in English?
Like emptiness? Like,
yeah, like emptiness in the bottom of my stomach. It's like, yeah, that's how I feel anxiety.
Okay, yeah, that's anxiety. And I wonder, Tatiana, is like how, and so it's a funny and interesting question. How do you feel towards anxiety?
I don't know, it just makes me feel uncomfortable, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
like I don't feel I'm like calm or easy, or like even when I'm watching TV, then I have to be doing something else, right? Because I have this anxiety that doesn't allow me to be in one place at a time. Like,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah,
It's really hard to explain, right?
It's hard to explain. We just kind of be aware of, like, I just feel something weird. And then, like, when I ask you how you feel towards anxiety, because feeling one emotion, we might end up feeling another emotion towards that emotion.
Oh, okay.
Right? Like feeling,
Yeah.
I don't like feeling, I feel, for instance, I'm having an issue now with one of my teeth. So I'm feeling anxious. I'm getting a root canal in 2 days. So I'm anxious, right? I'm feeling anxious about it. I couldn't sleep at night because I'm thinking about the worst case scenario.
Oh,
And that's what the brain does. Gets the worst case scenario as a way to get them some data. It's a powerful machine. The only thing is, when we are living in the future, and normally most of the time it's catastrophic, we are already experiencing that scenario. And for the brain, it's like we are living in the present moment. So feeling that anxiety, a way to kind of go through it is just to be aware of it and to say, where do you feel in my body? Normally when I feel anxious, it's at the pit of my stomach. And that's when I identify that anxiety. And that's when I notice like, oh, okay, yes, I feel anxious.
Yeah.
I feel anxious, right? Like right away, that starts like creating for the brain something real, something like a symbolic and a metaphor is the same. Let's do
We got something on this chat. So someone said, worry about the future. I think that was Brenda.
Worry, pardon me?
Worry about the future.
Worry, yes, yeah. And you know, is exactly that's anxiety. Worry about the future. What could possibly go wrong? And we normally go and get stuck in what could possibly go wrong. And it's not about fighting the emotion, it's about noticing. It's like, okay, yes, I'm worrying about the future. Let's bring that to the moment, to the present moment. And believe me, the only thing we can control, the only thing we truly can control is the breathing. The breathing is something that we do automatically. All of us, we are breathing in this moment. We don't have to worry about it. I'm not thinking about breathing, or we can bring attention to the breathing. And that anchor us to the here and now. And the mind will go to that catastrophic future. That's what the mind is expected to do. That's how we evolve in evolution, because that's the difference we have between us and other animals. The thinking brain is this part of the brain, the last part to be developed. A teenager, I mean, not even a teenager, when we are born, the only organ that is still developing is the brain. And you know when that ends? When we are 26, 27 years old. That's the brain, how the brain is working. And the brain will go to that catastrophic scenario, but we can bring it back here. And it will go again, and it will bring it back here. The breathing. That's why it's so important to breathe. Okay, so let's continue because I'm noticing the time. And I want to do things. Okay, now, rule number 1. It's okay not to feel okay. No, but you know what? You have to think positively and see the bright side. And sometimes it's fine to say, today I don't feel fine. It's okay not to feel okay. This way, imagine like you having, like in my case, I mean, I'm getting a root canal and it's painful. Well, I'm not in pain now, but let's say that it's painful. And I go and I talk to a friend and tell my friend, you know, it's painful. I'm getting a root canal. And my friend is telling me, oh, Lucia, think positively. Don't worry. It's like, wait a second. I mean, I'm in pain. For the brain, thanks to MRIs, emotional pain and physical pain is activated in the same area of the brain. However, the brain cannot identify one to the other one. So for the brain, my root canal and heartbroken is the same, it's activated. And that also talks about emotions. So emotion, the thing with emotion is that, for instance, the root canal, I go to the dentist, there is a physical, I mean, they can open that, they can see the infection, and it's valid, right? Because we can see it, touch it. With emotions, because we cannot touch it, it's like it does not exist. So do not feel badly. That for the brain is the same. And the question is why we care about one and why we kind of not hear the other one. So number 1, it's okay not to feel okay. Number 2, take care of yourself. No one will do it. It's like an oxygen mask on an airplane. If you're in an airplane and one of the instructions they give you in case of an emergency, you'll get the oxygen mask. Put it on you first. Why you have to put it first? Because otherwise you're gonna pass out and you're gonna be able to help the lost one. It's the same case here. Take care of yourself. That's important. Do recognize the emotion. Take time. Do take care of yourself. This is like number 1. These are the things we can control. Other than taking care of yourself I'm breathing. I'm sorry to say that, but we cannot control anything else. We don't know. We don't know. I mean, it's everything uncertain. But this is the thing we can focus, right? Then some ideas here that you can do. Oops, and I think I went the other way. Yes, here. Now, number one, acknowledge how you feel. I'm like I said in the beginning, name how you're feeling. Do not hold on the feeling or try to change them. Just go with it. Another thing about the brain, when you feel an emotion, the peak of that emotion in the brain is no more than a few minutes. What happens is we are kind of feel, for instance, sadness. And we're like, no, I don't want to feel it, hold it back. No, I don't want to feel it, hold it back. So that kind of creates a cycle. Instead of saying, okay, let's go, feel it, go, shoot, that will make a difference. All right, when I'm working with my clients, it's like, let's just explore with kindness and curiosity that emotion. An emotion does not determine who you are. An emotion is not either wrong or bad. It's just an emotion. It's your thermometer. It's telling you what's going on inside. It's like being a -20 and someone coming and telling you, I feel cold. You're not going to tell them how to feel. If you feel cold, you feel cold. It's the same with emotions. And again, because we cannot see them, and also because with certain emotions we don't feel comfortable, we don't want other people kind of experience them. Then self-care. Share then your feelings and thoughts. Believe me, share with your friends, with your family. I remember when I just arrived in Canada, the first months, I didn't want to do that because I thought I could be a burden to my family and friends. And I kind of missed that part. I will be for my friends. I will be there for them. Why I was not doing the same? And then allow yourself to feel and experience emotion with no judgment. Just try to be curious. Like, okay, this anxiety and I feel it here. And how do I feel towards anxiety? Eat mindfully. It's important that you eat well. Again, the brain and mind, even though are different, but for the brain, if you don't eat enough, then you might also feel more exhausted. Be kind to yourself. And be kind to yourself means accepting. Then, okay, create a routine. It's possible. Seek credible information. Go and find more about what you feel. And go on, there are different sources where you can go and explore. Stay active. It's important. Why? When we move the body, we create endorphins that are hormones that help us to feel much better. That's why it's important to be active, especially when the weather is not the best. Breathing exercises, again, this is the only thing we can control, and self-care. Seek support if you feel that this is too much. And another important thing to consider, like in my case, if you feel that there are symptoms that you experience for more than 2 weeks, and those symptoms are lack of energy, you feel like you're not eating well, you cannot sleep well, you feel like you lost interest in things, and important, you experience some suicidal ideas or kind of the thoughts about death, at that moment, go and look for help, because we're talking about depression. That's how we differentiate between feeling sad and feeling depressed. I like to explain that because the more we understand how our brains work, the mind works, how emotions are, the more information we get.
Before moving forward, as you know, Hispanotech is a non-for-profit organization and volunteers are the heart and soul of all activities. That is why we want to thank the volunteers that made this event possible. Thank you so much for all your hard work. And if you like to participate, just be aware you can also become a volunteer. To learn more about Hispanotech, you can follow us on social media, visit our website, and become a member.